Hi, I'm Helen Browning and I'm an organic farmer, and this is my dog George. Thank you to the children from Wesley Primary School who sent in some really interesting questions, which I'm going to try and answer this afternoon as I show you around my farm. So the first question is from Isabel, who's 11, and Janelle, who's 8. And they've asked, why do I like being a farmer? I love so many things about being a farmer, and actually I always wanted to be one, even when I was 8 or 9 years old. I love being outside and working with animals. And you have such a varied life on a farm. You're doing different things almost every day of the week, almost every minute of the day. Even when it is cold and wet, and even when things do go wrong, I feel so lucky to be able to work outside on the land. It's a really great way of life. So Layla, who's 9, asks, how many times a day do we milk our cows? And Jay, who's 11, asks how much milk every cow produces each year. So the cows are usually milked twice a day. About 4 o'clock in the morning, the herdsman gets up, rounds up the cows in the fields and brings them in for milking just as it's getting light. You have to be an early bird to look after dairy cows. And then they're milked again in the afternoon, so it's quite a long day if you're looking after cows, but a really rewarding one because they become great friends. They're lovely animals to work with. So our cows are British Friesians, and they give about 6,000 litres of milk a year. That's about 10,000 pints, quite a lot of milk. But most of that's just produced from grass, so it's a really lovely, healthy product for us to drink. So Reese, aged 8, asks, do we have any bees? Well, on a farm like this, obviously there's loads of wild bees, but we also have some honeybees too. Well, they belong to somebody who works on the farm, and he makes wonderful raw honey, which we serve in the house and in the shop and in the pub. It's a really lovely, healthy product. And we all know how important bees are as pollinators. Hardly any of the food we eat would be possible if we didn't have bees fertilizing the flowers that make all our food possible. So pupils from years 5 and 6 have asked, has the farm always been organic? And if not, when and why did you make the change? I grew up on the farm here and it wasn't at all organic when I was a child. I started to get worried about the way the wildlife was disappearing, the way the hedges were getting ripped out. That was all the rage back in the 60s and 70s. So when I had the chance to take over the farm, I was 24, and I was really interested to see whether we could farm it without all the sprays and chemicals, and how we could give animals a really good life. When I was doing my degree in agriculture, I'd been taken to see the really intensive pigs and poultry in these kind of confined houses, and I was really shocked by the kind of lives those animals were leading. I wanted to show that you could farm in a really kind way that looked after animals well, that actually helped nature thrive, and that produced really good, healthy food. And organic seemed to be a really good way of making that happen. Kareem, in year 4, asks, how do you get your carbon? Everyone's really worried about carbon these days because as carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, it causes climate change. And we've released a lot of it into the atmosphere over the last few decades. So as a farmer, one of the jobs I've got to do is to soak some of that carbon out of the atmosphere back into the plants. We can do that through trees, and we can also do it through grasslands and soil. So we want to farm in a way that soaks up as much of that carbon as possible and puts it into the soil, where it can do great things, feeding the earthworms, growing great plants. So it's much better if that carbon's in the soil instead of in the atmosphere. Thomas, aged 11, asks, do you eat the meat that comes from your animals? Yes, I do like to eat meat, but not too often. I want to make sure that the animals I eat have had a really good life, that haven't been factory farmed. It's better for the environment, for the planet, if we eat that way. And also we don't need to eat meat every day because there's lots of other ways we can get our protein through beans and pulses, and lots of food have protein in them. So I would always say, don't eat too much meat. When you do, ask where it comes from. Make sure it comes from a farm that's really looked after those animals well.